The Galactic Council had seen many shocking things in its eons of existence, but nothing prepared them for the day a human took the podium and unleashed grisly tales of his Deathworld on their unprepared alien minds. When Earth first made contact, the Council thought it must be a mistake. A primitive species from an unstable planet reaching the stars? Impossible. But then they appointed Jeffrey Perry, a scarred and hardened veteran, as ambassador, and he swaggered right into their grand assembly chamber ready to give them hell. "People of the galaxy!" Jeffrey bellowed to the wary delegates, his gravelly voice echoing through the hall. "Humans bow to no one. We're the toughest sons of bitches the universe ever barfed up, and we ain't about to start kissing tentacles now." The Tellarite ambassador Corvus gasped in dismay while whispered barbs of brute and savage rippled through the crowd. But Jeffrey wasn't done laying the smackdown on their prim sensibilities. "Y'all evolved on easy mode. Meanwhile, humans have been wading through shit every day of our existence. Earthquakes, volcanoes, we walk that shit off. Plagues, famines, keep 'em coming. Rampaging bears, dinner time." Jeffrey paced the stage, knuckles clenched, veins pulsing in his thick neck. "On Earth, even the rabbits can kill you. The mosquitoes spread brain-melting diseases. Hell, our own bodies can suddenly decide to just manufacture cancer for shits and giggles. But do we roll over? Hell no. We shoot those tumors full of radiation and keep on chugging. Humanity don't quit." The Council sat in stunned, horrified silence. What kind of demon planet spawned such hardy creatures? Jeffrey's lips curled in a predatory grin, relishing their shock. Stories of the ruthless savagery of human history poured from him, each more blood-drenched than the last. Alexander the Great, Genghis Khan, Napoleon. Those boys didn't screw around, let me tell you. They killed and conquered their way across continents. Corvus banged his fist on the table in a panic. "Surely we must contain these barbarians before they sow chaos through the galaxy. They cannot be allowed to spread and multiply." As the assembly descended into a furor of fearful shouts and angry rebuttals, a few thoughtful delegates stroked their chins. Perhaps these scrappy Deathworlders and their indomitable drive to survive were just what this stagnant council needed. Jeffrey sneered at the scowling faces, undaunted by their scorn. They could bluster and screech all they wanted. Time to teach these snobs what humanity was really made of. He would make them see humans as more than crude brutes. The future of Earth depended on it. As Jeffrey stood toe-to-toe with the scowling council members hurling bold proclamations about humanity's grit, a slender figure slipped through the crowd and tapped him on the shoulder. Jeffrey whirled around to face the newcomer, a tall, ethereal being with luminous eyes and skin that shimmered like starlight. "Ambassador Perry," the alien said in a mellifluous voice, "I am Xyloth of Arcturia. May we speak in private? I have an urgent matter to discuss with you, one that could shape the future of the galaxy." Jeffrey sized up Xyloth, curiosity piqued by the Arcturian's grave tone. He nodded curtly and followed Xyloth out of the main chamber, ignoring the suspicious glares boring into his back. They entered a small, dimly lit room where a handful of other aliens awaited, their faces etched with worry. "Ambassador, we've brought you here because the galaxy faces an existential threat," Xyloth began, his melodic voice tinged with desperation. "A vicious empire known as the Varanians has been ravaging worlds on the fringes of council space for decades. They wield technology far beyond our own, and their conquests have claimed billions of lives." Jeffrey leaned forward, elbows on his knees, listening intently as Xyloth described the Varanians' devastating plasma cannons and impenetrable force fields. The Council had tried every trick in the book: diplomatic overtures, trade embargoes, even strategic strikes, but nothing could halt the Varanian war machine. "Some of my counterparts are ready to wave the white flag," Xyloth admitted, his shoulders sagging. "They think surrendering is our only chance to avoid total destruction. But then we heard your speech and it gave us a sliver of hope. Humans are warriors, survivors, just the allies we need to stand against the Varanians." Jeffrey rubbed his chin, mind racing with the implications. Access to the Council's advanced tech could catapult Earth forward by centuries, and the thought of pitting human ingenuity against these Varanian bastards set his blood on fire. But doubt nagged at him like a persistent itch. Could he really drag humanity into an intergalactic war? Folks back home were already pissed about the government's alien cover-up, and something about Xyloth's story didn't sit right. What if this was all some elaborate trap? Just as Jeffrey opened his mouth to pose some pointed questions, the door burst open and Corvus barged in, his face twisted in outrage. "I knew it!" the Tellarite snarled, jabbing a finger at Xyloth. "Conspiring with the humans behind the council's back! Have you lost your minds?" Xyloth shot to his feet, voice rising in anger. "Open your eyes, Corvus. The Varanians will slaughter us all if we don't act. The humans are our last hope." The room erupted into a cacophony of shouts and recriminations as the pro-human and anti-human factions clashed. Jeffrey found himself at the eye of the storm, the weight of countless lives pressing down on his shoulders. He had to make a choice, and fast. The Varanian shadow loomed larger every day, and if the council tore itself apart, the galaxy was as good as conquered. But could he trust Xyloth and his crew? And even if he did, would humanity rise to the challenge or crumble under the pressure? Jeffrey gritted his teeth, knowing the fate of entire civilizations hung on his next move. He'd stared down death 1,000 times, but this was a whole new kind of battlefield. The future of Earth, the Council, and every soul in the galaxy was on the line, and he'd be damned if he let them down. Jeffrey Perry paced the dimly lit conference room aboard Xyloth's neutral space station, his boots clacking against the metal floor. General Marcus Briggs sat at the long table, his scarred face unreadable as he studied tactical readouts on a holographic display. "This is insanity, Perry," Corvus's voice crackled through the comms. "You can't drag humanity into an intergalactic war." Jeffrey ignored the Tellarite's protests, focusing instead on Xyloth as the Arcturian entered. "What's the situation?" Xyloth's luminous eyes dimmed. "The Varanians have crossed a line. They've developed a weapon capable of rendering entire planets uninhabitable." A chill ran through the room. Xyloth continued, his melodic voice trembling. "They demonstrated it on the colony world of Nyx Prime. 10 billion souls, gone in an instant." General Briggs smacked his fist on the table. "Those bastards! We can't let this stand." Xyloth nodded gravely. "That's why we need you. Human ingenuity and adaptability may be our only hope against such apocalyptic weapons." As they debated strategy, word of the crisis spread across Earth. Despite vocal opposition from some quarters, military leaders rallied behind the cause. Humanity would not stand idle while billions perished. Briggs assembled his team, a dozen of Earth's most elite operatives, Navy SEALs, SAS commandos, Spetsnaz veterans, each handpicked for their unique skills and iron will. Their mission: infiltrate the heavily fortified Varanian shipyards and upload a virus to cripple production of the Planet Busters. It was a suicide run, but the fate of countless worlds hung in the balance. As their stealth ship slipped into Varanian space, the team encountered their first major obstacle, a minefield of quantum singularities. Lesser pilots would have been torn apart, but Captain Sarah Chen navigated the treacherous void with preternatural skill. They touched down on an airless moon orbiting the shipyards. Donning experimental exosuits, they trekked across the barren surface toward their target. Caustic storms of ionized particles lashed at them, but the team pressed on. Breaching the outer defenses proved nearly impossible until demolitions expert Jorge Ramirez identified a structural weak point. A precisely placed charge blew open an access tunnel. But their intrusion didn't go unnoticed for long. Alarms blared as swarms of hunter-killer drones converged on their position. The humans fought with desperate fury, their advanced weaponry barely keeping the horde at bay. Through it all, they never lost sight of the mission. While his team held the line, communications specialist Li Wei hacked into the central computer core. The virus upload began, but agonizingly slow. That's when all hell broke loose. The Varanians, realizing the threat, began bombarding the entire complex. Massive explosions rocked the facility as experimental weapons rained destruction. "Keep that upload going," Briggs bellowed over the din. His team responded with unyielding commitment, fighting through waves of security forces. Against adversity, the virus took hold. Reactor cores went critical. Assembly lines ground to a halt. The shipyards were crippled. But their victory was short-lived. As they raced back to their ship, a stray blast reduced it to slag. They were stranded in hostile territory with dwindling resources. Briggs led the survivors to a defensive position, repelling waves of Varanian counterattacks. As energy cells ran low and injuries mounted, a grim realization set in. Their only hope was for the Council to mount a rescue, and for humanity to prove its worth as galactic defenders. As Briggs and his team fought tooth and nail to survive on the Varanian outpost, Jeffrey Perry found himself in a different kind of battle back at the Galactic Council. He paced the gleaming halls, his boots echoing off polished surfaces as he cornered delegates one by one. "We can't just leave them to die," Jeffrey growled at a tentacled Zephyrian. "Those men are buying us time with their blood." But for every sympathetic nod, he got twice as many cold shoulders. Corvus and his hardline faction worked overtime to block any rescue attempt. "You dragged us into this mess," Corvus spat during a heated council session. "Now you expect us to risk more lives for your band of primitives?" Jeffrey banged his head on the podium. "Damn it, Corvus! This isn't about humans versus aliens anymore. It's about standing up to the Varanians before they wipe us all out." With the council gridlocked, Jeffrey knew he needed a new plan. That's when he stumbled upon an unlikely group of allies, a ragtag bunch of alien ambassadors huddled in a dimly lit bar on the station's lower levels. "Our worlds were the first to fall," a four-armed Nixilian said, mandibles clicking. "We've got nothing left to lose." Jeffrey leaned in close. "But you've still got ships, right? Crews?" The aliens exchanged glances. A bioluminescent Quatsar spoke up. "Remnants, civilian vessels, a few mothballed warships." "It'll have to do," Jeffrey said. "Who's up for a little revenge?" Within hours, Jeffrey was back on Earth, striding into a seedy underground fight club. He locked eyes with a scarred mountain of a man pummeling a hapless opponent. "Colonel Kruger," Jeffrey called out, "I've got a job for you." Kruger grinned, teeth bloody. "About damn time, Perry. Things were getting boring around here." As Kruger assembled his team of outcasts and ne'er-do-wells, Jeffrey's alien allies cobbled together their makeshift fleet. They set out for Varanian space, a motley armada on an impossible mission. Aboard the lead ship, Kruger put his strike team through hell. They ran combat sims until their muscles screamed, pushing the limits of human endurance. "The Varanians will kill you 100 different ways," Kruger barked, "so we're going to learn 1,000 ways to kill them first." Back on the outpost, Briggs and his dwindling squad fought like demons. They rigged traps from scavenged tech, lured Varanian patrols into kill zones, and made the enemy pay dearly for every inch of ground. "Come on, you alien bastards!" Briggs roared as he mowed down another wave with a captured plasma cannon. "Is that all you got?" Just when it seemed the humans couldn't hold out any longer, the sky lit up with weapons fire. Jeffrey's armada had arrived, smashing through the Varanian defenses in a hellstorm of missiles and energy beams. Kruger's team hit the ground running, carving a path of destruction through the Varanian ranks. They fought with a brutality that shocked even their battle-hardened foes, employing tactics no sane military would consider. "Frag out!" Kruger bellowed, lobbing a cluster of improvised explosives fashioned from reactor cores. The resulting blast vaporized an entire Varanian squad and collapsed half the corridor. The humans tore through the facility like a force of nature, leaving a trail of bewildered and broken enemies in their wake. They finally linked up with Briggs' position just as the last of their ammo ran dry. "Took you long enough," Briggs grunted, clasping Kruger's arm. "Traffic was hell," Kruger shot back with a grin. Together, they fought their way back to the extraction point, where Jeffrey's ships waited to whisk them to safety. As they blasted off from the shattered outpost, leaving devastation in their wake. The full weight of what they'd done began to sink in. "Holy shit," Kruger breathed, staring out the view screen at the vast Varanian fleet mobilizing in the distance. "I think we just kicked the biggest hornet's nest in the galaxy." Jeffrey nodded grimly. "Gentlemen, I hope you're ready for round 2, because this fight is just getting started." Jeffrey Perry stood on the bridge of the battered flagship, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The once proud Alliance fleet had been reduced to a handful of ships limping through space. Alarms blared as another system failure rocked the vessel. "Reroute power to the starboard shields," Jeffrey barked. "We can't take another hit." General Briggs hunched over a sparking console, his face illuminated by the flickering emergency lights. "Perry, we've got to face facts. We're finished." Jeffrey hit his fist on the command chair. "No, I refuse to accept that. We still have a chance if we can reach the council." A nearby ensign cried out as his station exploded in a shower of sparks. Jeffrey rushed over, helping the injured man to his feet. The acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. "Status report," Jeffrey demanded. Xyloth's melodic voice cut through the chaos. "Our long-range sensors are offline. We're flying blind, Jeffrey. The Varanian fleet could be anywhere." As if on cue, a massive energy signature appeared on the tactical display. Jeffrey's blood ran cold as he recognized the profile of a Varanian dreadnought. "Evasive maneuvers," he shouted. "All power to engines." The crippled flagship lurched to port, narrowly avoiding a barrage of plasma torpedoes. The hull groaned under the strain of the sudden maneuver. "We can't keep this up," Briggs growled. "We need to scatter the fleet, give the survivors a chance." Jeffrey nodded grimly. "Agreed. Signal all remaining ships. They're to make best speed for the nearest neutral territory." As the orders went out, Jeffrey thought of the brave men and women they were leaving behind. Human strike teams trapped behind enemy lines, facing certain death or worse. The weight of command had never felt so heavy. "What about us?" Xyloth asked, his luminous eyes filled with concern. "We push on," Jeffrey replied. "Someone has to warn the council of what's coming." The ship shuddered as another volley of Varanian fire found its mark. Klaxons wailed as entire decks were vented to space. "Hold her together," Jeffrey pleaded with the ship. "Just a little longer." Through skill and sheer luck, they managed to slip past the Varanian blockade. As they limped toward council space, Jeffrey gazed out at the stars. Somewhere out there, humanity's best and brightest were fighting and dying, believing their sacrifices would make a difference. "I won't let it be for nothing," Jeffrey whispered. Days passed in a haze of constant repairs and dodging Varanian patrols. When they finally reached the outer markers of council territory, a new dread settled over the crew. "Incoming transmission," the comms officer reported. "It's Corvus." Jeffrey steeled himself as the Tellarite's scowling visage appeared on screen. "You have some nerve showing your face here, Perry," Corvus snarled. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "We need to speak to the full council," Jeffrey replied, fighting to keep his voice steady. "The situation is far worse than you know." Corvus's eyes narrowed. "Oh, I'm well aware of the catastrophe you've unleashed. You'll be lucky if they don't shoot you out of the sky." The transmission cut off abruptly. Jeffrey turned to face his battered crew, seeing the fear and uncertainty in their eyes. "Whatever happens," he said, "we did what we thought was right. Now let's go face the music." As they approached the council station, Jeffrey couldn't shake the feeling that this might be humanity's last stand. Not on a battlefield, but in the halls of galactic power. The fate of Earth and countless other worlds now rested on his ability to convince a fractured council to unite against the Varanian threat. The docking clamps engaged with a thunderous clang. Jeffrey took a deep breath, straightened his uniform, and prepared to...
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.